Costa Rica, Icaria in Greece, forgetting one right now, but we study them. They don't actually have access to any of this technology. So what is this suggesting to us? That maybe how we live our life is medicine. And that's the most powerful thing I want people to walk away from this podcast is how you show up every single day can be your medicine or your poison.
All right, guys, we're out here in LA. We got Dr. Kien Vuu here today. We're going to talk about spirituality, health, and psychedelics. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is unique and innovative, and it's kind of a newer modality, right?
Well, human performance, longevity, human potential, they're actually all on the same spectrum. Some people think, what's the difference between optimal health and all this biohacking optimization stuff? Well, on the other side of it, right at the base, it's all cellular health. If you could optimize how your cells behave, if you optimize how the cells talk to each other, cells form tissues, form organs, form systems, form who we are. And so when you optimize cellular health, not only do you prevent yourself from getting disease, but that's when you get longevity, that's when you get human potential and you perform your best as well.
Well, I like that way of thinking because people treat surface level stuff usually, but when you go down to the cells, that's the root problem, right?
Absolutely. It's all down to the cells. If we start to think about almost everything that exists in the universe, everything's connected to each other. And if we start to look at our human bodies as this ecosystem, again, made up of individual cells, you can then ask, what is the energetic environment of this ecosystem? If you go out to an ecosystem, say the rainforest or something like that, a healthy ecosystem, everything interacts with each other. Every single organism in that ecosystem has its unique role and purpose. And the state of the entire ecosystem affects everything in it. That's a way our human bodies work as well. And disease comes from the fact that we are giving basically the signals, the energetic environment of danger and stress by how we eat, how we think, whether or not we move, whether or not we're super stressed out in the work that we do, our connection with other people. We create an energetic environment for ourselves. And you're on one end of the spectrum, you're either giving an environment that everything's good. You guys are out there, you guys are safe. I call it the thrive state. And that puts you in the state of optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. Or you're giving yourselves the signals of danger. What happens there? That increases inflammation, it lowers our immune system. That then puts us prone to chronic symptoms and chronic disease. So it all comes down to the state that we provide our cells.
Wow, I love that. And I like to be actionable with this podcast. So how can people watching this determine if they have issues with their cells?
If you have symptoms of any sort, our natural state, if we are in our thrive state, in our natural state, we feel joyous, we feel connected, we feel in flow, as we'll probably talk about later. We feel like we are actually contributing to life, belonging to something much bigger. We are pain-free, we don't have symptoms. Symptoms are basically the end result of basically cells that form, not given the right things. There are suboptimal cells forming suboptimal tissues, suboptimal organs, suboptimal systems, and then symptoms will come out. Brain fog, joint pains, skin rashes, irritable bowel disease, memory loss, extra weight in your body. So any form of symptom is a suggestion that there's something in this ecosystem that's not working well.
Wow.
And then you have to figure out what that might be.
And are those fixable for the most part?
For the most part, yes. I wrote my book, Thrive State, and it basically encompasses how do we start to control the energetic environment of our cells. And it turns out that our cells, back in the day, people used to think that who you are, how old you live, or how long you lived, the type of diseases you get or not get were entirely inherited. That the DNA that you have will cause a disease or your performance or give you your gifts. That's actually not true. Our DNA is constantly listening in a moment-to-moment basis. Every single cell is always listening to its external environment made up of energy, hormones, chemicals, and all that forms what's called the epigenome. And so your cells are listening to its environment, and based on its environment, it's going to turn on and turn off the genes that constantly interact with it. So we're controlling the energetic environment of our cells by how we live our life. The 5 main things that most affect this energetic environment of our cells is 1, in the physical realm, sleep, nutrition, movement. 2, it's our emotions, our emotional states of joy, of connection, of
This episode of Digital Social Hour is brought to you by BetterHelp. Making it easy and affordable to access online therapy, give it a try at betterhelp.com/DSH and get on your way to being your best self. The holidays are a tricky time of the year for a lot of people, and I like to stay cozy and warm at home with my favorite movies and a warm blanket and also some BetterHelp. With a lot of time to reflect during the winter months, therapy is a great way to embrace what's on our mind and find comfort that doesn't leave us, even as the holidays fade away. Even if you've never tried therapy or always wondered about its effects, BetterHelp's online therapy option can be a helpful tool to learn about positive coping mechanisms and set boundaries that will aid you in years and events to come. It doesn't just take trauma to make therapy worthwhile, as we want to empower everyone to be the best version of themselves. If you're thinking about therapy, give BetterHelp a try with its online platform designed to be convenient and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist with the freedom to switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Find peace and comfort this December with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/DSH today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DSH.
Especially that of gratitude, is actually, giving ourselves the signals to thrive. Anger, hate, resentment, fear, all those are fine emotions to have, but if you're stuck there, you're basically giving yourselves the signals of danger. Our mental state and mindset, who we are in terms of our community, and then finally, whether or not we're living in a state of purpose. All those things are actions we can take that controls the energetic environment of ourselves. Things that we can't really control, infections or toxins from the outside, but those 5 things you can control. And when people walk out with that book, you could actually, when you work on optimizing those 5 things, your ability to have any symptom is very low, and your ability to reverse almost any condition is really high.
Yeah, I love that. First of all, I used to get sick every month, and ever since because it's not just the physical health. Everyone focuses on the supplements and the physical stuff.
Yep.
But once I got more in alignment with everything else, I haven't been sick in like 2 years.
Amazing, right?
Yeah.
So you start feeling in that, we were just talking about flow states as we were coming here. I mean, you just start feeling that when you're doing the thing that you're meant to be doing, and then you're treating your body the right way, all of a sudden you're gifted with optimal health, this energy, this vitality. And this isn't woo-woo anymore. The science of epigenetics is really telling us that the environment we give ourselves determine our cellular health and therefore our longevity and performance. And we ultimately control that environment by how we choose to live life and how we show up every single day.
Yeah. Did you learn that 5 pillars of health from exploring the blue zones?
Absolutely. So, the field of biohacking longevity is super exciting. I think, some scientists say that by 2030, we're going to reach the age of immortality. We have people like Brian Johnson, potentially, dreaming to those facets that with technologies, AI, regenerative medicine, stem cells, exosomes, genetic editing, we will be able to extend life faster than we age, potentially allowing us to live forever. Now, I don't know how others feel about that. I'm not, necessarily sold on that point just yet or how fast it will come. What I can say is that if we start to study people in the blue zones, we're talking Okinawa, Japan, here in Loma Linda, California, Costa Rica, Icaria, Greece, forgetting one right now, but if we study them, they don't actually have access to any of this technology. So what is this suggesting to us? That maybe how we live our life is medicine. And that's the most powerful thing I want people to walk away from this podcast is how you show up every single day can be your medicine or your poison. So are you showing up from a state of fear, of survival, of reaction to the world and constantly stressed? And you're making unconscious choices. Look, I was a physician, 7 years ago, overweight, diabetic, high blood pressure, on prescription medications. So I was living in a stress state because I was unconsciously, living from the limited beliefs of I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy of love, and that I needed to strive for success for me to be worthy of it. And living in that consciousness, that stress-based consciousness, I was basically giving myself the signals of danger and stress.
Wow.
Chronic symptoms, chronic disease. Once you start to wake up from that, you're like, oh, what are the choices I'm making in these 5 categories? and you start to make those deliberate choices. And those are choices I still get to make, because there are days from the old programming, the matrix, that I'm like, oh, why am I reacting to that still, and making new tricks? So this is the beauty of our human existence, is to evolve ourselves into why we're meant to be here.
Right. So getting out of that mindset, does psychedelics play a role in that?
I think psychedelics can help. The more I've studied with spiritual shamans and people in the spirituality space, there are practices that allow us to tap into ourselves, that remind us of who we are, the gifts that we have, the gifts that we're here to serve. But psychedelics, can certainly help. I've done psychedelics in the past. I've also led ketamine ceremonies in the past. And what it does is this. See, there is the inauthentic version of a busted lick. There's a primitive version of our brain and nervous system called the default mode network. And as we're kids, it's the autopilot survival mode of the brain. And so it downloads information from our parents, from our teacher, from the society when we're growing up. It remembers our past traumas. So if you lived in a home that had abuse, neglect, drugs, divorce, those are traumas. But not being seen, not being heard, not being able to be you. You have to be someone else to be loved, to be safe, to be connected. So what happens is, over time, we have this nervous system. We think we need to be something outside of our authentic selves to receive love and connection. And so that forms the seat of our ego. And so many people live through that ego, but that ego is not the truest version, though. When I was sick, I was living on the limiting beliefs of I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough. It was that ego space, and I was making unconscious choices. And so that all stems from what we have to now understand as the default mode network. What psychedelics is able to do is it can actually quiet down the default mode network. So you have all these patterns of how it used to live. So the ego has all these different patterns of how it looks at the world and how you function through the world. And basically, psychedelics actually quiet all those things down, loosens all the wires so that you could start to make some new connections. Like, oh, I don't necessarily have to have that trigger. That was something that happened a long time ago. So that's what psychedelics are able to do. But, psychedelics, very, very useful tool. I think it is probably over commercialized right now. And there are practitioners that are serving psychedelics that doesn't necessarily have the proper training to take somebody through the process.
So you got to really do your research on that.
Certainly. I mean, with psychedelics, the three most important things are the setting, and then the most important thing is the integration. Like, after the experience, once you are able to see something new, feel something different, how then, once you come back to 3D life, are you going to be able to apply that wisdom? If you don't apply the wisdom, you're not going to transform. And then, and if you don't transform, you don't do the integration piece, the psychedelics become a place of escape rather than transformation.
Right. I want to talk about purpose.
Yeah.
Because you said on another show, sense of purpose could add up to 7 years to your life.
Absolutely.
Was there an actual study done on that?
Yeah. So there are multiple studies demonstrating that, living from a state of purpose adds 7 to 10 years. It preserves your telomeres, which is a marker for aging. It also lowers inflammation, and it also increases your immune system tapping into purpose. So the next question is, how do you find your purpose? Multiple different, people will have different versions of this. I think, Picasso had a quote: the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose of life is to give it away. But I don't think it's a process of finding so much as it is remembering. I look at my daughter now, who's just so playful and has this zest for life. The things that bring you joy, the things that light you up, the things that inspire who you are written in your DNA. That's who you are as an authentic version. The version of you that's doing this podcast, that's just like, wow, I'm in flow doing this. That's the authentic you. And when you are the authentic you and you serve others with your gift, that's your purpose. Your purpose is you. So when you're in that state of flow, just feeling alive and just sharing that and helping other people with that thing, that is your purpose. Your purpose is you. If you look at every single cell in our body, it serves a purpose. The heart cell to pump, the lung cell to extract oxygen, but it's doing it for something bigger. It's doing it for this entire ecosystem. So that's what purpose is. And it's not something you find, it's something you remember, and it's something that you live.
Wow.
So, I mean, I try to have people understand the human body to humanity a little bit because, all these cells form tissues, form organs, form systems that form the ecosystem that's a human body. We could be seen as cells in the bodies and the consciousness of our families, of our teams, and humanity itself. Now, let's look at a heart cell. If that heart cell wanted to live forever and perform at its best, the field that I cover right now, it has two options. One, it can steal all the oxygen, steal all the nutrients from everything that's around there. Yes, it will grow. Yes, it will multiply. But at the expense of this entire ecosystem that in which it is connected with, that is the state of cancer in our body. And ultimately, all the others, tissues and organs with alter. The other option is this. I'm a heart cell. I'm just going to take what I need from the outside and just serve. I'm just going to pump. I'm going to serve everything. But if it just does its job, all of a sudden, it's going to get the oxygen from an optimized lung cell. All of a sudden, the kidney cell is going to detoxify all of the blood for this cell. So if it just serves for this entire community, it will live longer. It will perform at its best because we're all interconnected. So those are the two options. And then for us, desire to live longer and to perform at our best, we just have to understand, just do you, or I like to use the phrase, you it, and then share yourself with other people. That is really going to activate the biology of human performance and longevity.
Yeah, because the body can kill itself, right?
It is already an innate mechanism. We have, hundreds of thousands of years of natural selection that lead up to who we are. And so there's an innate intelligence for this entire ecosystem to work already. We already have the power to heal. Right? We just have to give our bodies the signals of safety, love, and that things are okay, and it does the magic on its own.
Yeah. And when you were in med school, you probably were not learning that.
Absolutely not. No, I mean, unfortunately, I think I was, taught by the pharmaceutical industry. I spent the entire second year, learning how to use drugs that treat symptoms of disease. And don't get me wrong, there are drugs that are, game changer. It's just if we rely on them too much and we forget the fact that we ultimately have the power to control how our cells behave, then we're really losing and giving away our power. They play a role, drugs play a role, conventional medicine will play a role, but I think it's a smaller role when people can understand their true power to heal and to perform at their best.
Absolutely. Any daily practices you do, breath work, meditation?
Absolutely, both of those. I mean, finding times for stillness, both with breath work and with meditation. What I like to do is these micro intentions. So in any moment I remember, and I used to set tons of alarms, but I only allow myself when I walk through any single door, when I walk into my car door, I have these micro intentions. And what do I do with the micro intentions is I just stop my brain for a second, just ask myself, how do I want to show up in this next moment that's coming up? How do I want to show up when I walk through that door? How do I want to show up when I'm about to have this conversation? And what it does, it allows you to just be really conscious. I want to be joy. I want to be connected. I want it to be loving. I want to be generous. And so whatever happens next, you are priming yourself to make conscious choices about how you show up, not reacting to what life throws at you. The more we make conscious choices about who we want to be, the more we master our bioenergetic field and the messages that we're giving to every single cell in our body. So having that intention throughout the day, making those conscious choices is basically a game changer for performing at our best and for living our longest.
Well, what should people know about their bioenergetic field? Because that's also a topic I don't see discussed in many places.
Well, we are all bioenergetic beings. I mean, within us right now, if you measure different parts of our body, it's giving away different type of energy. And it's red. And there is energy in our hormones, energy in the proteins in our body, energy that is, that is physical and non-physical energy that's in our body, forming this bioenergetic field. And those 5 things that I mentioned controls our bioenergetic field. It's the physical, sleep, nutrition, movement, our emotions, our thoughts. And it's not like we can control our thoughts. The majority of thoughts that we have 80 to 100,000 thoughts every single day. The majority of them are negative. Well, why? Because it's tied down to this default mode network. It's there to protect us. So it's going to basically look for all the things that could hurt us, all the things that could potentially put us in danger. So that's why we have a negativity bias. But we ourselves can shine the flashlight on the thoughts that we want to focus on. And guess what? If you focus on what you focus on, you feel. And what you feel is actually a living and breathing gauge of all the different biochemical and molecules that are floating around your body. So if you focus on things that you have versus things that you don't have, notice there's a different feeling. Are you focused on the things that you can control versus things you can't control? Again, different feeling. The different feelings that you get, you're basically giving different messages to every single cell in your body, right? Your energetic state changes. And again, tapping into purpose. Well, what is it? Am I living for me, stressed out? What's in it for me, which drives you in that stress state, which lowers your bioenergetic frequency? Or do you recognize and do you remember that we're actually connected to each other, that all of us here forms the body of humanity? And if I remember, just like, maybe you're a heart cell and I'm a lung cell, just doing our thing for humanity to get better. If we remember that, we turn off that part of our brain, the default mode network. So purpose is really kind of like a psychedelic. We're just there serving ourselves and other people.
Right. Yeah, I love that rainforest analogy you made earlier. That makes a lot of sense to me. And a lot of people tie their purpose in money, which is dangerous.
And unfortunately, that's what so many people are trained earlier on. They tie their work, they tie their who they are to that, and it gets programmed in us very early. Very, very same with me. Like I didn't feel it, and this is the thing people, kids worry about the most is feeling safe, feeling loved, and feeling accepted. And unfortunately, we start to learn that we need to look a certain way to feel those things. We need to have a certain amount in the bank account to be those things. As a kid, being a refugee from Vietnam, I was constantly being teased. I was, raised in Chinatown, LA, not too far from here, but go back to your home country, cheeky. I had these holes in my hand-me-down clothes. And, I'm only 5'6". You're like, what, 6'6", 6'7"? So not good enough, not tall enough, all these things. And this is how our brain and nervous system develops as children. And, it's a beautiful thing because it does help us, be safe in certain ways, but it doesn't, and it's almost kind of a cosmic trick. If it makes you forget that you are already safe, you are already loved, you are connected, and you were gifted with life on this planet to exist and to express you, to be in your flow.
Yeah. A big part of my health journey that helped me was community. I know you mentioned that as one of the bad things. So I was very lonely growing up, you know what I mean? And once I got some great community, it helped a ton.
That is something that we are all like super connected, just like the cells in our body. And we've got these Bluetooth and Wi-Fi receptors in each of us that feels each other. Like if you could just see somebody doing something, that's helping somebody else, you feel that. When somebody has this, negative energy, you feel that. And so when we start to shift our energy, when we start to shift our bioenergetic state, we could start to heal other people out there because our energy is shared with other people. And once you start to master a consciousness and things like that, people with negative energy, you can work on so that it's not, tapped on with you as well. But this is why, community is so important when you want to be healthy, when you want to be happy, when you want to be successful. Because you are downloading the thoughts, the feelings, the habits of the people in that energetic state.
Wow.
Right. And so that's why we're all connected in that sense. And to understand that, we know that we need that. Loneliness is one of these things, is actually an accelerator for aging and disease. We need that. When we gave fist bumps earlier, there's every physical connection or even a mental connection from a distance away. When we feel connected, oxytocin goes up. Oxytocin is a very healing hormone in our body. So unity, super
important. And for people watching this, there's whatever space they're in, there's a mastermind, there's a group, there's a conference.
And you want a nurturing community that sees you for you and will celebrate you for you. Not a community that, that energetically depletes you. And so it's important to have those positive, nurturing relationships.
That was my problem growing up. It would deplete me. But I would get bullied, made fun of, and I pretended to be someone I wasn't. I had to fit in. And that's a part of the problem in public school, I think. These kids are pretending to be people they're not, to fit in, to be popular, whatever it is.
Yeah, it's a part of anyone's journey, I think, to belong, because one of these tenets of our default mode is like back in the day when you didn't belong to a tribe, you would be killed. And so we learned very early on that to be accepted, we might need to shapeshift ourselves. Unfortunately, we become people we're not until we live life being people that we're not. And then either a divorce happens, you get a chronic disease, or something happens, you start to wake up. I didn't live the life that I'm meant to live. I'm living in the matrix. And tapping into performance and longevity is really breaking out the matrix.
Yeah, you see a lot of old people die with regrets, man, and I don't want that to happen to me or anyone I care about, honestly. It really sucks to see that, whether they didn't chase the career they wanted or loved one, break up. There's a lot of different things, right? Yeah, that's tough, man. Talk to me about these ketamine circles.
Ketamine, yeah. Well, what does ketamine do? Ketamine is probably one of the first anesthetics, like back in the day. People had used it, I think, in the 1960s or so, for people for induction for surgery. And what they had discovered is this is actually a medication that doesn't actually affect the respiratory system. What we have found in the past decade is if you actually do a sub-anesthetic dose of ketamine, is a dissociative medication. And what it does is it dissociates yourself from your analytical default thinking mind. And what can happen in that space is you could open yourself up to new thoughts, new belief system, new habits, maybe even analyzing some of the stuff that you have previously. So like many of the other psychedelics that are around, it quiets down the default mode and it allows for neuroplasticity, which is allowing your brain and your nerves to form new connections. Again, with the other psychedelics, it's important to have the right second setting. That is like the place in which, the ketamine is being administered, making sure there's the right intention and energy going into it. And then afterwards, having an integration piece, having someone there go, oh, this is what you saw. This is what you felt. How is this going to play out in your life now? What type of changes can you make now? And it's a very, very powerful medicine to do that. If you don't have the right set and setting or integration, potentially all you'll do is dissociate. And, this is why ketamine is used, in recreational parties all the time, is it's an escape, and it becomes an addiction rather than a transformation.
Right, and in that setting, it's kind of a toxic environment.
Exactly. Any psychedelic can be toxic if used improperly.
Yeah, you hear horror stories of these bad trips, right? Yeah, I heard a few of those college kids jumping off building, all this crazy stuff.
Yeah. Dang, absolutely.
Yeah, use it in the right way, guys. Doctor, any closing messages for the audience?
No, just remember that you are your best medicine. So just you it.
Love it. Just you it, guys. We'll link your stuff below. And thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, brother.
Yep. Thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.